G'day, you're listening to the Virtual Staff Room, and this is episode 25, Computer in My Pocket. Welcome to the Virtual Staff Room. My name's Chris Betcher, and thanks for joining us. In this episode, I'm actually joined by two teachers, Liz Kolb from Ann Arbor, just outside Detroit in the USA, and Toni Twiss from Hamilton, just near Auckland in New Zealand. And Liz and Toni are both fairly expert on the subject of cell phones and how cell phones can be used in education. Toni's on a research fellowship at the moment and doing specific research into the very topic, and Liz is doing a similar kind of thing, and in fact she's just written a book on the topic called Toys to Tools. And I thought it'd be a wonderful opportunity to get these two together and talk about cell phones. It's a bit of a hot topic, or at least it is in the circles that I'm moving in at the moment, where teachers are trying to figure out what exactly we can do with these wonderful little computers we carry in our pocket. Some schools are banning them, most schools are banning them, and a few brave schools are trying to figure out what it is that we can actually use these for that might in fact be productive. So this was a really interesting chat I had with these two. We cover a whole bunch of some of the philosophical issues, some of the technical issues, some really interesting tools and software applications that you can use with cell phones, and I think it's pretty mind-blowing. And if you're one of these people that think a phone is just something you make phone calls on, I think you're in for a real shock as you listen to some of the things that you can actually do with these little things. They are truly the Swiss Army knife of electronic things that you can carry in your pocket that pretty much do a mind-blowing array of things. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Liz and Toni, and hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, well, welcome to the Virtual Staff Room, Liz Kolb from Detroit, correct?
Yeah, actually Ann Arbor.
And Toni Twiss from New Zealand. Whereabouts in New Zealand are you, Toni?
I'm in Hamilton, which is just a little bit south of Auckland in the North Island.
All right. Well, I'm just going to ask you guys just to briefly introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and your involvement in education. So, Liz, I might start with you.
Well, I am currently finishing up my dissertation, hopefully this month, at the University of Michigan in learning technologies. And my kind of area of interest and research is all around how to use students' everyday technologies in learning in the classroom. And especially cell phones, obviously, is my number one interest. I also teach both at University of Michigan, and I also teach at another local university here in Detroit. And I work with both in-service and pre-service teachers on different ways to integrate everyday tools into their classroom teaching. So I get the best of both worlds. I get to be with the teachers and work with them in the classrooms, and also kind of be on top of the latest research, and I still get to work with the kids. So,
wow.
Lucky person.
Sounds like you got the best of both worlds there.
Yes.
And Toni, over the pond in New Zealand, tell us about you.
Right. Well, I'm a high school teacher in English and Media Studies, and this year I'm on a study award from the New Zealand Ministry of Education, which basically gives you lets you out of the classroom for a year to undertake a research project in an area of technology of your choice. And my research this year is based on mobile phones in the classroom, so similar to what Liz has been talking about using the technology that kids already have in their pockets to enhance what they're doing in class. And my big focus at the moment is on information literacy. So I've just finished up working with a couple of schools, and I'm about to start writing up my findings at the moment, and that report is due in December.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, that's the reason I particularly wanted to get you two together into the same virtual room here to have a chat is because of the work you've done with mobile phones or cell phones, I guess. What do you call them there, Liz? They're cell phones in the US, aren't they?
Yeah, cell phones, or if you have an iPhone, it would be a smartphone. So
right.
Those are usually the terms we use.
Right. What do you call them there, Toni? Are they cell phones or mobile phones?
Usually just mobiles.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Mobile.
We're talking about the same thing. So yep. I was in an interesting position the other day. I was asked to go and give a little presentation for some other teachers about mobile phone technology and the sort of things you can do with it. And I know I picked both of your brains briefly before I gave that talk, and you gave me some wonderful ideas. And I was actually blown away with the stuff you can do with a mobile phone. I thought I had a bit of an idea, but you guys opened my eyes to a whole lot of things I wasn't aware of. So I thought perhaps if you we might just start with telling us some of the, perhaps the coolest things you've seen done with mobile phones and how that can be used for learning.
Sure. I think for me, I started about 4 years ago working with cell phones and learning. And one of the first things that I did with the cell phone was some basic podcasting. And I think about 4 years ago, that was close to all that you could really do with the cell phone. And that is simply just making a phone call and using a resource like a Gabcast, a Gcast, a Dropio, and posting online. And I've had quite a few teachers in the southeastern Michigan area around Detroit and Ann Arbor who have been doing that, such as radio theater broadcasts with their students and author studies where they're interviewing authors on location. And now we've kind of expanded that into taking advantage of the camera and the video phone, where they can also document field trips and experiences outside of school through their camera and video phone. And even expanding beyond that, we're also starting to look at how we can use the phone as really kind of, I like to call it an anywhere, any place, any pace, any time tool. And, some of my favorite resources for that are things like chacha.com, where, you can call and get an answer to any question from anywhere, text message back to you, or query.com, where you can send any subject as a query and then get a whole web Google search around that particular subject. And it's, again, the focus is really this idea that students don't have to be in a classroom or in a library in order to be able to gather information.
Yeah. And Cha-Cha is a live service, isn't it? Isn't that like there are actually people at the other end who will do the search for you and send back the answers?
Yeah. And one of the really interesting things I found when I was using Cha-Cha with some teachers in Detroit a couple months ago, one of the teachers told me that her son, I think he's 18 years old, is one of the guides for Cha-Cha, one of the live people who does the service.
Oh, really?
And so I was asking her about the process he went through, and she said it's actually quite an interesting process where you're kind of evaluated on your mobile skills as well as your internet searching skills, how quickly you can gather information and how well you can send it back in a text message and how accurate it is and reliable. And I think they get paid, it was about 17 cents or 22 cents per message that they send back that is accurate or correct. And she said it's a great job for him because he can log in at any time, anywhere, and answer some questions on his own time. Huh. So nice way to make some extra money.
Yeah, wow. I
think that's a great way to demonstrate how mobile skills are going to be so important in our future world as far as being able to run a business and to be able to participate in the professional world. I think that, especially in the United States, we really underestimate the importance of being able to send text messages and being able to post from your cell phone to the internet and that type of communication.
Yeah, I think you're right. Toni, what about you?
Okay, well, in New Zealand, it's quite different from in America, which I've been finding really frustrating because a lot of the things that you're able to do on cell phones in America aren't available here in New Zealand. They're often a number that's only available in the US. And our internet data rates on mobile phones are horrendously expensive, coming down, but by no means are they sort of at a level where students are on the internet and that sort of thing on their mobile phone. So my research has sort of been looking at, and I've been blogging about a lot of the tools that are being used in America and looking to the future of when they are available in New Zealand. But the most interesting thing about the research that I've done is I've been sponsored by Vodafone, so I've got 30 3G phones that the kids get when I go into a class, and they've got unlimited calls, text and data. So it's kind of almost been like putting a spotlight on the kids and saying, well, hey, if you've got access to any information that you want at any time during your lessons, how do you go about using it? And what that's really highlighted is that currently the kids do not have the skills to deal with having that much information on hand at any time. So, yeah, which is leading me into my information literacy ideas. But the things that I have been using that have been really, really successful have been the polling, and I've been using poll everywhere. And in America, you can do it via text, and I think in Australia you can too now, but we can't. So we're still having to use the mobile web to respond to those polls, but the kids love them. And one of the things that I'm doing is when you can use a free word text, so you can type in answers. We're then taking those answers and putting them into Wordles and then posting them to their blogs, which the kids just absolutely love.
Cool.
So,
cool. And you put me onto smspoll.net the other day, and that was awesome. I hadn't seen that before. And
oh, good.
It's a really impressive service.
Yeah. Yeah, there's quite a few of the different polling services coming out. There's another one I think that you've posted about, Liz, which is like a graffiti wall, and when you post in your answers, they'll come up all over the place.
Yes, one is Poll Everywhere has one, and also Wafidi.com, but again, I'm not sure if it's global or not.
Yeah, and that is the problem. Like, I know down here in Australia, you come across a lot of really cool things, but then you read the fine print and it's only in the US. But I'm sure it will expand over time.
The other tool that has been hugely useful that we can use here is Quipit, which is taking the photo of text and then emailing it through from your phone or sending it as a text through to quipit.com, and then it comes back to you as a PDF. So do it for that, for group work or for work on the board. If classrooms don't have a smart board or interactive board, then posting it to a blog site, that's been hugely valuable as well.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, what do you guys use for your own phone? Like, I'm just thinking, like, what do you use yourself? You got an iPhone, Liz?
No. I'm too poor for an iPhone. I have a fairly basic cell phone that comes kind of with the package. It's just a Verizon, I think it's called a Crazer phone. So it's kind of a middle of the road phone, but it's not a smartphone. It has text messaging. And it just got unlimited text messaging. I've learned that in the United States, the number one requested feature for students who have cell phones is having unlimited text messaging.
Yeah.
And it has a camera and I think about 13 seconds worth of video I can take at a time on it.
It is Ustreamer 58790 in the back channel is saying, Liz, that's so surprising. They thought you'd have an iPhone.
Well, I do have a reason for not having an iPhone other than it is more costly than what I would like to spend, is that part of my research and what I do is being very present and current with the students. And even though over 80% of our students have cell phones, most of them don't have iPhones.
Yeah.
So if I end up experimenting with iPhones, then I feel as though I'm making it less accessible for most of the students.
Yeah, exactly. I was sitting in a conference, almost 12 months ago now, and it was a conference of technology integrators. So they were all fairly cluey people, and as a demo, one of them had gone around the day before and shot a whole lot of video on the phone, and then was showing it the next day on the big screen, and then saying, oh, this is great, you can use your phone to do video. And I asked the question, I said, did you actually edit it on the video as well, or what did you use? And he said, no, we did that in Premiere or whatever. And when I looked at my own phone, which was just the cheapest little Sony Ericsson K610i, it actually has video editing built into the phone. And that's when I started really digging into what phones can do. And that was like the cheapest phone I could get at the time. And it was a 3G phone, because Australia's been 3G for, I think, longer than the US. But, yeah, it does video editing and audio recording, and it takes photos. And I was astounded when you look at what you can actually do. So, yeah, very eye-opening when you start to really dig into a phone.
And I was going to say, and I know in Asia, they've been working on this whole idea of the projector phone and building the LCD projector into your cell phone. And,
I saw that on your blog. That's unbelievable.
I know. I haven't seen it in person myself, so I cannot evaluate it. But.
Yeah. And Toni, you've actually looked a lot into the 3G stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I wanted to do the same as what Liz said as well, which is saying, okay, I want the cheapest 3G phone that you can get, which is what Vodafone has given me. So the phone I'm using is $145, not on a plan, so just outright.
Yep. And
so my sort of theory is that most kids now who are going to go and buy a cell phone, this is at least what they're going to have. So, and I personally only use I've got a Nokia 6234. It's great because you can drop it and pick it up and brush it off and it still works. And it's not particularly flash, it's 3G, but yes, it's got voice recorder video, photos, the works, and I use Opera Mini on it as my web browser. I have, at the moment, Vodafone have loaned me a iPhone, which has been amazing to have from a research point of view. And once again, everything's free on unlimited data. So I have been using that and looking at, what is the potential if in 2, 3, maybe 5 years, if this is sort of going to become our standard phone, what might education look like? So that's been really interesting as well. But yes, I do maintain that same sort of theory as Liz, which is we can't remove ourselves from where our kids are and where our teachers are. We need to be, still having that sort of level of consumer technology that they have access to.
Yeah, exactly right. I just recently got a new phone and almost got an iPhone, but decided instead to get the Nokia N95. And I'm astounded at what this thing does. This is a computer. This is not a phone. It just happens to make phone calls. Liz, there's a question from the back channel saying, how often do your teachers allow the use of cell phones in class, in your experience?
Well, that's a really good question. The truth is that most of the schools, and if it's somebody from the U.S., they probably are well aware of this, most of the schools in the U.S. do not allow cell phones in them, or they have such a restricted policy that students really can't even have them on in the classroom. Yeah. So the activities I do with teachers, and my book that I just wrote also focuses on this concept of using cell phones outside of the classroom for learning. So the teachers who are doing podcasts and doing these kind of scavenger hunt photo activities and, location blogging, they're doing that remotely outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
So inside of the classroom, they focus on content, they focus on getting ready for the projects, and then they go outside for homework or on spring break or over the weekend, and they gather all the data, send it to the place on the web they need to send it to, and then they come back in class and they open up the web and discuss and debrief. But they don't actually bring the cell phones into the classroom with, I would say, 95% of the teachers I work with. Now, on occasion, I do have a teacher who does some radio theater podcasts, and she actually uses her one cell phone, which is, again, just a basic cell phone, with all of her students to do the podcasting. And this is an elementary teacher who uses this as like kind of a center activity that they do. Yep. So she has a lot of control over it.
Cool. Is that your experience as well, Toni? Just that most schools don't allow this stuff?
Yeah, most schools don't allow it. And I just wrote a blog post about it yesterday, actually. I've got this really interesting thing that keeps coming up, and it doesn't matter who I ask, teachers or students, whether they think cell phones should be allowed in the class, and they all say, oh, no, because, then you just sit there and text all lesson. And that's, I just wrote a bit about some research that's being done about how our brain actually works, or how they think our brain works while we're doing things like texting, and you can have a read of it anyway, if you're interested. But really what they're saying is it's not particularly good for our attention span and that sort of thing. So if we've got cell phones in class and we are allowing our kids just to dip in and out, it's actually probably not the best thing for them to be doing. However, I think that in small bites during class for a specific activity, well then yes, we should be allowed the flexibility if we do wish to use some of the features available on a cell phone to be able to use it, but to have ongoing constant access to cell phones and texting and communicating with other people outside the class that's not related to things that are going on inside the classroom is something that's not particularly useful.
Yeah, it has to be, and I would use the term, it has to be managed rather than it has to be controlled. It just seems
Absolutely.
to me, it just seems to me that, like, well, I don't know, the same situation here in Australia, that in most of my experience, that schools just don't allow them. They either say you're not allowed to have them at all, or if you do have them, they've got to be out of sight and turned off all day.
Yep.
Whereas the school I'm at now, we're having a bit of a reinvention of that. the rethink of the policy is now to allow students to have their cell phones and to not make them clandestine and not have them hidden and not try and pretend they don't exist, but rather accept they exist and obviously manage their use. And you wouldn't allow a kid to sit in class and text and make calls any more than you'd allow them to, stand on the desks.
Exactly. It comes down to classroom management.
Of course it does. Does.
Yeah, one of the schools that I'm working with at the moment has just changed their policy. So as of next year, at the moment their policy is can't see it, can't hear it, including in the playground. This is a secondary school. But as of next year, it will be, if it is appropriate for use during class time, then it is at the teacher's discretion, which I think is really good.
Totally makes sense and fits every other model of classroom management that you would make. You would soon make sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is also working with a social contract with your students. I think because we see so many negatives with cell phones in schools, we just don't understand how students might be able to use them appropriately in the classroom. But I think a great model is the Craig School in Canada with Dean Sharesky, and one of his teachers sat down with the students and said, we're going to use cell phones for learning. Let's create some rules and regulations around it. And they came up with rules such as, put the cell phones on vibrate, and other rules such as, they need to be, I think, like at the front of the classroom when they're not being used. And the students were telling me that they don't have any interest in going against the policy, using them for cheating or using them inappropriately, because there's a certain level of trust that they were able to establish with the teacher. And I think sometimes we underestimate the students' ability to do that. And also, it's such a great opportunity to just talk about appropriate and inappropriate uses when it comes to cell phone etiquette. The fact that, text messages aren't really private. We just had here in Detroit a big problem with our mayor in Detroit, sent some inappropriate text messages, and now he's been, pretty much kicked out of office as a result. But I think it's such a great opportunity to talk with students about the fact that their text messages aren't private, and what is public and what is private, and what is appropriate and inappropriate ways to use the cell phones.
Yeah. There's certainly a lot of teaching of great etiquette and manners and ethical responsibility and all this sorts of stuff. And I'm with you. I don't think you teach kids that by taking the opportunity to learn it away from them.
I was just going to say, I think some of the things that kids have actually brought up have been really interesting. And I've blogged about it yesterday.
The joys of school.
Kids are really concerned that their personal tools are all of a sudden, if they're using them at school, what sort of limitations are going to be on their personal tools. So they gave the example of maybe having offensive content on their phones, which when it comes into the school environment, that's obviously not going to be acceptable. And so I was thinking to myself, well, that's exactly right. They need to have some accountability, because at the end of the day, things that are on their phones, they can be, used in a legal setting. If for example, if there was a school fight that was filmed on a mobile phone, and so by not actually having these phones in the classroom, the kids don't actually understand the power of the stuff that they can have on the phone, and that it's not just their private. In their private domain. Once it's been created and once it's out there, it's
exactly
available.
One of the sort of throwaway jokes I've been making in the little conference things I've been saying lately about mobile phones is that we used to worry about kids getting their mobile phones and videotaping teachers doing something stupid in class and then taking it home and uploading it to YouTube. And now with things like quick live streaming, we don't even have to wait for them to go home overnight. You can just do it live.
Exactly.
And it really, it's a totally different world. It's changing the rules entirely. We're having a debate at school at the moment about filters, and we have a very open system, and we're getting some pressure from parents who want things closed down, and we're saying no, we're not going to do it, because you know what, kids will just get their phones and go around the filters anyway. You have to teach them.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem is that in schools we want to isolate kids often from, we don't want them to get into YouTube and the inappropriate places, and we don't want them to use their cell phones inappropriately. But if we're not teaching them in schools the legal ramifications of what they're doing, of sending a video to YouTube that might be actually legally detrimental to them or to people around them, then they could later on in their lives get into some serious problems because we're not really doing a good job as educators in educating them. And I think even though we say parents should take that job, I think parents struggle with it because they don't necessarily know either, especially with these newer tools that they didn't grow up with.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, so things like live streaming, to be anywhere, anytime, any place, and grab your phone and do a live video stream or take a set of photos, which these days can be quite high quality. I'm just looking at the features of this phone in front of me now. I can do audio recording for podcasts. I can capture images. I can capture videos. I can capture my location with a GPS. That changes the game a little bit in terms of media collection, doesn't it? You know, when you take kids out on a field trip or an excursion and to get them to document their experience with an interview with someone with audio or to take photos and stuff. That to me seems like the really, really obvious use of a phone, more so than information gathering. I mean, you can sit there on your phone and Google for things and gather in information, but for me, using it as a media gathering tool would seem to be the really obvious thing.
Yeah, I agree, particularly with the ability to share that free between kids. I think that's where the power of it comes in as well, you know, through Bluetooth and online, obviously. You know, just being able to collect that information and then actually do something with it, share it, rework it, put it into a presentation, put it into study notes, or, you know, if you have come back from a field trip to the beach, say, if you've got a task that involves actually gathering information that is going to be useful for later class tasks. So I do agree with you.
Yeah, I was good. There's a great example of this, Chris, that's on in the UK. They have that myartspace.com. That's just one example where they ask students when they go into museums and local national monuments to document their experiences with their cell phones. And It's nice because cell phones don't have the flash photography, so they can actually take pictures. And then there's all sorts of lesson plans around this for teachers to help them. But that's just one good example that I think is out there when it comes to field trips and taking full advantage of data collection on your cell phones.
Well, and it seems to me that if you said to a group of teachers, would you like a class set of digital cameras? They'd all go, oh, yeah, we'd love that, but we just can't afford it. Or would you love a class set of voice recorders? Yes, we'd love that, can't afford it.
Exactly.
And the kids are sitting there with them in their pockets, you know. We just kind of don't tap into that enough.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
P.R. Wood is making a comment in the VAC channel here that during Hurricane Ike in Texas, the reporters were using Skype and cell phones because they actually couldn't get signals out otherwise, which I think is interesting.
Amazing.
And, you know, I think also I know that in some developing nations, such as Africa, you know, people are using cell phones as their only communication tool as well, just because it's so hard to get landlines and internet access in some places. So the cell phone is the way that they vote. It's the way that they gather, you know, get information every day. And so I think that in some ways, developing nations are much better at embracing cell phones for learning because they really do see it as such a useful tool. And, you know, that's why I think we're seeing places like Africa have mobile courses where you can actually take a course through your cell phone. We're not really seeing that in the United States right now because we're still looking at it as this kind of social entertainment device.
Wow. Really? So, and what those courses are customized to fit the small screens and what have you? Yeah,
that's my understanding. I know you can get more information at places like mobileactive.org, but there's definitely a movement to, as far as helping to educate and get knowledge out to people in Africa who are in remote areas, is this idea of using mobile courses through the cell phone.
Yeah, interesting.
I think there's I'd have to look up the web link for it, but there's definitely an initiative in South Africa where they're doing that as well. Courses delivered, mobile content delivered to students, actually specifically designed for use on a mobile phone. I'll look up the
Toni,
link.
what was the stuff you were telling me the other night about some of the 3G stuff in Europe? You're mentioning some stuff there that was pretty advanced.
Oh, looking at particularly QR codes. They're everywhere in Europe, and I know they're starting to become more popular in Australia too, because I saw them in the Sydney Morning Herald when I was there over the weekend. But QR codes, I think, are for accessing information on the net, but also for transferring and sharing of information. That's pretty amazing. Because when we were in Europe in June, we bought train tickets on the internet, and then to use them we had to print off a sheet of paper that had all our details on it, and we had to show them our credit card, and they came along with a little scanner and scanned the 2D barcode on our sheet of paper. Now they just text it or picks it straight to your phone, and when the guy comes along with his little barcode reader, he just scans your cell phone, and so it's just so convenient. Is that what you meant?
Yeah. Can I get you to just real quickly just explain what a QR code is? Because there will be people listening to this that have never come across them, I'm sure.
Right. So a QR code is short for quick response. They are just a 2D barcode, so they're a little square, and they just look like
a box full of squiggly black things, right?
They do. And you can install for free onto your mobile phone a QR reader, and there's plenty of different ones. KWA, KAYWA. Yep. They do one, but there are literally just heaps and heaps of these different readers. So you just go to the web link on your phone and download these readers, and then you just open up the program just like you would open up a game on your phone, and it opens the camera and on your phone, and you take a photo of the little QR code wherever you see it, and it will either give you a web link, or it might say you might see a poster for a new movie, and you might see a QR code on the bottom of it, so you scan the QR code with your phone, and then it might download a movie trailer for you.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's very cool technology, and you can put basically a URL or a piece of text or all sorts of things in that QR code.
You can put your business card.
Yep.
Yeah, you can put a whole lot of text in it, so your phone number, your website, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the other day it'd be fun at school to set up a little, almost like a geocache, with a whole bunch of QR codes hidden around the school that you had to go and find the coordinates of, and then go from one to the other, great. And the QR code would give you the clue for the next one.
Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah, because as long as you don't need to go on the internet for it, it doesn't cost you. That's right.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea. Again, I'm just kind of browsing through the applications folder here on this phone and just seeing, these are just free things that I've downloaded recently. So things like, I'll just mention a couple, and maybe if you've had some experience with them, you might like to just relate them to the people listening. So, for example, Quick. What about Quick? Anyone use that?
I do not use Quick because it only works on Nokia phones, so I haven't been able to use it. But I'm looking forward to Quick and some of the other kind of live streaming video applications. I'm hoping that they'll start to work with more phones soon.
Oh, right. I thought it worked on others. It's only Nokia's, is it?
Nokia and a couple of very high-end Motorola phones, I think.
Okay, and I believe
I keep checking back.
I believe they've got it for the iPhone now.
I have heard that, but I haven't used it.
Okay. Google Maps on a cell phone. This is a mind blower.
Brilliant.
Fantastic, and with or without a GPS.
Yeah, because it works out where you are based on your cell tower. But we were up in Auckland last weekend, and we wanted to go to a cafe, so we just typed in search cafes around your current location, and it just found all these cafes and linked straight to their websites and gave us walking directions to them. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, that's been the amazing. I needed a lawyer the other day to sign a piece of paper for me, and driving along, hit Google Maps. It told me where I was. I did a search for the word lawyer, and it dropped all the little pins in the map around me and said these are all the local ones, and then you just click on one of the pins and you're 2 clicks away from the phone call. It really is quite an astounding convergence of information types into just, I don't know how you describe it. It's like it's taking all the disparate bits and pieces and just making them all make sense with each other.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, what the hardware is doing. When I used to go travelling, I'd throw in the camera and the GPS and the video camera and the music player and everything else, and it'd all go in the bag. And now it's like one device.
I just like to call the cell phone just the Swiss Army knife of professional learning tools. Like I feel as though it's now the thing that you always have to have in your pocket wherever you go.
Yeah, it's certainly becoming that. Has anyone used Shozu?
Yes,
a little bit
on the iPhone. I have.
Yeah. Tell us about that, Tony.
That's the one for the music, isn't it?
No, well, the one I've got here is it lets you set up a bunch of services, so like Flickr or YouTube or Picasso Web, that type of stuff. And when you take a piece of media, like a video or a photograph, you can instantly upload it to one of those services from the phone.
Sorry, that's not the one I'm using. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
So, I was looking at one on the iPhone, and I listened to 12 seconds of music. And I was just going to say, on my iPhone, take straight to iTunes.
Sorry, Tony, Jason's in the chat room saying that's probably called Shazam.
That's the one, yeah.
That's the one, yeah. That's
Thank
pretty
you.
clever.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Carry on.
No worries. Thanks, Jason. Liz, you were about to say something there?
I was just going to say that I haven't really taken advantage of ShowZoo, but I do use Flickr's mobile application with a lot of teachers since the thing that we really like about it is you can set it up, the account, so it can be private, and then the students don't really have any control on the account if the teacher just sets up, the one account and then gives out the email address where students can send their pictures to. And that's been a nice way for students to document different experiences outside of school and have it go to a nice, safe, private place in the classroom.
Yep. Someone in the back channel who's also saying TwitPic is another good application of that sort of stuff. Twitter on the phone.
Something else?
There's just so many mainstream applications now that are moving to the mobile platform. Google Reader, Gmail, all those sorts of really mainstream things that are now just completely mobile and work really well.
One other thing I really like to do with the cell phone, or that I've become a big fan of, is this kind of idea of on-demand radio through your cell phone. There's some nice resources, and this is in the U.S., so I don't know how this transfers, but places like Lexi.com or Cellicast.com, where you can create a whole playlist of your favorite radio shows, or just even short radio programs that you listen to, like National Public Broadcasting, and you can call in a number and listen to it on demand. You can even send short snippets of it from your cell phone to your friends' cell phones that you think are important or significant. And I become a big fan of that because I love the idea that I can call in, listen to it as long as I want to listen, stop it, and then I can call again, and it's the exact same show if I want it to be, and I can start up where I left off. And I just think if you can also put your own podcasts and broadcasts, and you can upload them to places like phoneshow.com, and people can dial in a number and listen to your podcast that way. If they don't have internet access, they can use their cell phone to hear it.
Wow, that's a whole new world opening up, isn't it? Again, someone just pointed out in the chat room here that the distinction between a mobile phone and a computer will eventually disappear, and it'll just be a matter of form factor or size. That functionally they'll do pretty much the same things.
Definitely, I think that even when about 6 months ago I went to buy a new cell phone, the Motorola Razr that I have now, and when I got the phone, I was just kind of investigating and asked if there were any phones they were selling at this particular company that did not have a camera option. And they said no, all of their phones now have at least a still camera. They all have some kind of ability to connect to the web if you want it. So things that used to be the luxury features are now the basic features, and I'm sure that's just going to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see it happening any other way. Liz, you've just written a book about this stuff, correct? And it's called?
I have. It is called Toys to Tools, Connecting Student Cell Phones to the Classroom. And it's actually coming out next month officially through ISTE. But it really is talking about a lot of the things that we're talking about today. All that we can do with a cell phone. I like this book to be the argument for rather than the argument against, because there's so many arguments against, just the other perspective. And it talks a lot about the reasons why we kind of are afraid to add cell phones into learning, and some potential solutions or ways to work around those issues. Like I mentioned before, one thing is just doing a lot of out-of-school activities with the cell phones that still connect to learning. So some good lesson examples of what teachers are doing, as well as resources, and just hopefully some samples of permission forms and ways to work around the fears and issues we have with it.
Great. Well, I can't wait till that's released. I actually found an article on the ISTE website the other day when I was browsing some back-end information for this. Should we allow cell phones in schools, I think it was called. And you'd written the positive side of it, and someone else had written the negative side of it. And I've got to say, I didn't find their argument all that compelling.
Thank you. It's easy when I really believe in my side of the argument. So
I can tell. Toni, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there before. What were you about to say?
No, that's right. Just on talking about sort of phones and what the luxury, the luxury is now just your mainstream and that's your bottom end phone. I think that we're really going to see phones come into their own when your bottom end phone's just coming out standard with Wi-Fi in a few years' time.
Yeah.
That's when I think we're going to see the huge developments particularly in the way that we're actually able to use them as a on-the-go tool that we don't even, absolutely seamless, we don't even think about using it, which is kind of what I'm finding with the iPhone at the moment. The minute I step out of my house, I'm seamlessly on the 3G network, but the minute I'm in my house, it doesn't even ask me, and I'm just on free Wi-Fi. So I think when maybe in our schools, when kids just walk into school and they're connected to the school network, that's when we're going to start to see some huge developments in being able to use phones in schools.
You just made me think of something. If so many of these developments just rely on sort of media collection and data and all the rest of it, is the phone part of it then becoming redundant? Are we talking more about just like a portable device that is basically a tiny computer? Does it have to have the phone, or is that just the luxury?
I looked at, when I was in Europe, I went and visited Wolverhampton district and looked at what they were doing with what they call EDAs in schools, and they're educational, what did they call it, PDAs, personal digital assistants. So they're educational digital assistants, and they were PDAs, like a little touchscreen smartphone without the phone attached, and they'd actually been custom built for the school or for this district to use with their schools. So their kids had sort of these pods of 30 phones. Well, they weren't phones; they were PDAs without phones. So
yep. Which is almost, I guess, what an iPod Touch is, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think the thing with the phone is, though, that you do want to have phone on you for your texting and your calling, and it just sort of becomes another application on this little device, doesn't it? It's no longer the main feature.
Yeah. And of course, then you could possibly make your phone calls over VoIP rather than the phone network.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of teachers who really haven't got their head around this stuff yet.
I just think it goes back to the whole kind of issue, and Toni probably knows a lot about this and doing all the research, but the whole issue around teachers and how people who become teachers, how they see themselves teaching. And there's a lot of research saying your teaching is formed by your own schooling experiences. And people over the age of 25 did not go to school where cell phones were even really part of the culture. And so they definitely haven't seen models of teachers using cell phones in school. So there's an immediate assumption that cell phones are not a tool that would ever be used as a learning tool in school, I think. So I think that there's that assumption. And then, of course, just the fear of maybe students knowing a little more than you do when it comes to the tool that you're using and how you deal with that, which is not always easy for teachers.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we've been speaking for a while. I guess we should probably wind it up. But I might just finish by asking you each to, if you had one kind of message that you wanted to get out there. You've both been pretty involved in looking at the way cell phones can be used in education. If there was one message you wanted to sort of get out there to the rest of the teaching community, what would it be? And again, I'll just throw to you first, Liz.
I think the message would be, even beyond cell phones, just to really look at what our students are engaging with outside of the classroom with their technology tools. Yep. And recognizing that that is part of their literacy and that's part of our future professional world. And if we can take video games or cell phones or whatever it might be and hone it into something productive and educative for the students, I just think it makes them all the more powerful. And the bonus on that is that it often is much less costly for school districts because it's something the students already own.
Yeah.
And
You're so right, though. It is about a pedagogical shift as much as it is about a technological shift. It's about rethinking the balance of power that goes on in a classroom and where that expertise and the power is allowed to lay, not necessarily with the teacher. I think that's really hitting the nail on the head. Toni, your message you'd like to get out there?
Well, just to tie it really closely to mobile technologies, I think it's about looking at look at what our kids already have. And whenever I speak to groups of teachers, I give them phones, or I say, give them their basic phones, or I say, get your own phone out and just spend 5 or 10 minutes and look at what you actually already have, and then think about that when you're putting together your activities and think, okay, well, how could I get the same how could I get to the same objective? How could I get to the same learning objective with maybe using a bit of variety in the tools that you've already got sitting in the classroom?
Yep. Excellent. Cool. Well, I'd like to thank you both for joining me this morning. This has been a really interesting chat, and I know there's been a lot of talk going on in the back channel. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's some good discussion going on there as well. So thank you to the people joining us live as well. It's the first time we've done that, and it's actually worked pretty well. Toni, where can people find you on the web?
I am at www.tonitwiss.com/mobile.
Excellent. And on Twitter as well?
Yep, I'm Toni Tones. Anytime you see me on Flickr or Twitter or anything like that, you can look for me as Toni Tones.
Excellent. Toni Tones. We'll be keeping an eye on you on Twitter. And Liz, where can people find you on the web?
I'm at cellphonesinlearning.com, and I am also on Twitter at Kolb.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, again, thank you to both for joining us. I've really enjoyed this chat. It's been enlightening, and I'm going to go and start discovering all sorts of new cool things I can do with my phone now, and more importantly, start to get the kids to do it, because I think that's the real challenge, isn't it? Breaking through the firewall of control in schools and letting this stuff happen.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay. Goodbye.
Good to talk to you both.
Bye.
You too. Goodbye.
And cut. Thanks, girls.
Lovely.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Toni. I really appreciate it. That's good.
This was fun.
There's a couple of bits where Skype went a bit silly and we had pauses and whatever, but that's okay. I'll edit them out and that'll sound normal.
Great.
And thanks to the live channel too. They're still listening. Thanks, live channel. Jason and Harry and Steve and the rest of you guys I don't really recognise. PR Wood. And that's good. Jason, how was the quality on the live feed, mate? Wait for him to type something in with the lag. Yeah. But no, it's good. Okay, I'll take it. Now, if I could get you both to do one little favour for me, if there's any links of things that you mentioned or things that we sort of spoke about during the call, if you wouldn't mind just flicking me off an email with a couple of links that I can include in the show notes. It doesn't have to be everything we spoke about, because we spoke about a lot, but if you can just pick out a handful of things and flick them over to me and I'll put them together.
Sure.
Yep, that'd be great. And Tony's just dropped out. Okay, good on you. Thanks, Liz. I really appreciate you taking the time tonight. It's been great.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you too, and I will send off that email to you.
No worries. And let me know when the book's available, because I'd love to try and get a copy. I don't know, is it going to be for sale outside the States?
It's through Amazon, so I believe so, yes.
Oh, good. Excellent. Great. Well, I'll make sure to pick up a copy.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
No worries.
All right.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Chris.
So there you go. If you've got a cell phone, I suggest your homework for this episode is to pick it up right now, take a look at it and see what you can actually do with it. And what I'd love is if you find some useful uses of your mobile phone, your cell phone, go over to the blog at virtualstaffroom.net and leave a comment over there and tell us about some of the things that you see as the possibilities, or maybe even some of the things you're actually doing in your classroom with mobile technology. It's certainly an area that will open up, as I hope you appreciate from listening to those two talk. One of the interesting things we did in that episode that I haven't actually tried before was to run a back channel. So as we recorded that episode, we were taking the audio stream out and feeding it into Ustream. So it was going out live onto the internet, and hence you might have noticed there were references throughout that episode to the back channel. And it was nice to have the half dozen or so people, the dozen or so people who were actually sort of sitting in the background chatting and listening to the stream go out live. It certainly added a nice dimension to recording the podcast that I haven't tried before, and I think I'll definitely be doing that again. I think it worked really well. So keep your eye on Twitter. If you're not following Twitter, Betchaboy is my Twitter name, and whenever I attempt to record one of these, I'll make sure Twitter goes out so that everybody knows about it. So just Betchaboy on Twitter. And of course Liz and Toni are also both on Twitter, as they mentioned at the end of that episode there, so I suggest you go and follow them as well, especially if you're interested in this topic. It's a really fascinating topic, this whole cell phone thing. That's about it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, I'd like you to head on over to virtualstaffroom.net. Please leave us a comment. Check out, there is a whole bunch of links from this episode. Normally I'll put some links over on the blog for every episode, but this episode in particular, there is a whole lot. So if you're interested in trying some of the apps and tools and toys that Liz and Toni spoke about, you will find links to them over on the blog at virtualstaffroom.net. Well, until next time, my name's Chris Betcher, and you've been listening to the Virtual Staff Room.
I think it's really interesting. I was just going to quickly say, I was looking at one on the iPhone that...
The joys of Skype.
Go ahead, Toni.